Hi, I'm Olivia Clarke, editor of Chicago Lawyer Magazine and the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin, and this is this month's installment of Inside Out, and we are here with David Susler and Tina Martini to talk about law schools. So, from working with young lawyers, how have you seen legal education change?
Well, I think that law schools have really made a concerted effort to try to better prepare their students for the realities of practicing law today. And I think that preparation is not only with respect to helping them develop better advocacy skills, writing and drafting and that sort of thing, but I also think it goes into trying to teach them a little bit more about the business of law as well. And these tools, as well as good common sense, being pragmatic, and just having great people skills are all really important tools in order to help the law students be able to hit the ground running once they graduate law school. And I think law schools recognize that fact, and so they have developed their curriculum accordingly. And at the end of the day, it's really to the benefit of both the law students as well as the law schools, because teaching them these tools enables them to be more marketable, which will ultimately inure to the benefit of both.
Yeah, I think that captures the substantive changes in law school very well. I would add, a major difference from when I went to law school today is that everything is now computerized and online, which today may be an afterthought to most people, but if you compare it to the world as the way it was when I went to law school, it's a dramatic change. For example, when I went to law school, I think there was one person in my first year class who actually had a PC, and for example, we did learn the new technologies of Lexis and Westlaw, which each had their own color-coded dedicated computer terminals, but we weren't allowed to actually use them in legal research and writing class. These days, I'm not even sure if law schools teach manual research, and everybody has their own PC now, and everybody has internet access in a classroom. But then again, as much as things change, some things don't change. The core classes remain the same, and the stress and fear of law school, especially first year, is alive and well.
So, what would you say is the number one skill that new lawyers should have? Whether they're working with your client matters or they're working in your law firm.
I think the most important skill is to have a fire in the belly. And, in the context within which I'm making that statement is when I was the hiring partner in my office, I interviewed hundreds of law students during the course of that time. And a lot of them demonstrated tremendous academic excellence and success. And I think that the one characteristic that really was the overriding characteristic among all of them was intelligence. What's interesting, though, is that I found that a strong passion for the law, as well as intellectual curiosity and the fire in the belly, were actually a lot harder to come by. And I think what that fire in the belly does is it translates into taking somebody who's very strong intellectually, and it combines that with the intellectual curiosity, the motivation to succeed, and yields a high-performing individual whose attitude and desire to learn and succeed ends up transforming into not only top-notch work product, but one of the most, if not the most important thing, which is exceptional client service.
Yeah, I remember discussing that when Tina was the hiring partner, and I agree that would be a very important skill and attribute. I would say, I don't work with new lawyers very much in my practice, but I do mentor young lawyers quite a bit. I would say that the number one skill that I would want a new lawyer to have would be research and writing ability, and you can say that's two skills, but they go hand in hand. As a mentor and as a client, I think the number one attribute that I would want a new lawyer to have is emotional intelligence, which means, such things as social awareness and self-awareness, which are traits that really enhance one's ability to deliver strong and effective client service and also help to develop business.
So should law students take business classes?
I absolutely think law students should take business classes. No matter where law students end up practicing after they graduate, every legal environment is a business. And I think it's really important to understand the business behind the practice of law, because it's the business that actually drives the practice. It's also important to understand your client's business as well, because it's the client's business within which their legal issues arise and need to be addressed and resolved. I think every law school should require that their students take business classes so that students can be sensitized to these issues and better understand them once they end up starting to practice.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, and that's actually another change. The law is a profession, but today the law is much more of a business, and you have to have at least a basic understanding of business to succeed in your career. In law school, there are basic business courses that everybody should take, such as business organizations, bankruptcy and creditors' rights, and secure transactions. If you weren't a business or accounting major in undergrad, I think a lot of law schools offer an accounting for non-majors type of course in law school that can be very useful. The truth is, virtually all lawyers are going to embark on a career path that touches business in some way, so they need to know the basics. And if you want to manage a firm someday, and certainly to manage your own practice, and definitely, again, if you want to go in-house someday, you need to know at least the basics of business.
Chicago Lawyer Magazine, for the first time, is going to be doing a conference called Off the Pages, where columnists from both the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin and Chicago Lawyer are going to be speaking on panels. Our first conference is September 20th, and it's on the topic of how to get and keep business. And our two Inside Out columnists, Tina Martini and David Susler, are on two of the three panels. And we'll tell you a little bit about what we hope people will get out of the experience, and we hope that you'll sign up and participate. So we'll start with Tina.
Well, I'm going to be speaking on a panel that discusses how to generate business in a challenging economy. And what I really hope folks get out of it is a recognition that developing business is something that's actually very personal, and it's a way to really show who you are, not only to prospective clients, but also to the community. And there's some real creativity and fun that can go into developing business. There's some really innovative ways to do it, and I think folks will hopefully take away from it that that you can be pretty creative. And while there's certain things that everyone does, you can have fun doing it and really set yourself apart and brand yourself in a way that's really authentic to you.
And I'll be on a panel speaking about, from the in-house perspective and client relationships and business development, how can, for example, outside counsel do a better job of providing effective client service, which is going to go a long way towards helping them develop business. Talk about how the way the practice has evolved with in-house to outside, it's become more and more of a partnership and a two-way street, and to get some lessons, along the emotional intelligence side of the partnership.
Great. Thank you both very much, and we hope to have you at our September 20th conference. Look for ads in both Chicago Lawyer and the Law Bulletin to find out how to sign up. Thank you very much.